What's up, everybody? It's the Ladder Podcast, and I have the privilege of being your host. My name is Justin Strickland. This is your first time. I'm honored and privileged that you're spending some time with us. Today, we're going to talk about something super dope. Shout out to my homeboy Damo. He hit me up and was like, hey, you should talk about this. I was like, sure. So we're going to talk about the Bannister effect. If you don't know what that is, you're in for a treat. Make sure you stay tuned to the end. I'm going to give you a real quick snippet, like a gem on how you can reapply this ideology to your life. So stay till the end, okay? But before that, for my new people, what is the Ladder Podcast? What have you turned on your YouTube or listened on your podcast app? You are listening to a podcast dedicated to leaders. Whoa, don't be quick. Everybody's a leader, right? Everybody around here is a leader. Everybody has some kind of capacity and responsibility for leadership. And so the ladder is built around this ideology, this foundation that because you are a leader, you need someone to help you grow. Because the better leader you are, the better it is for the entire world. And so you're in the right place. We are chasing excellence, and we are doing it in a way day by day together. And so shout out to the crew. You see I got the merch up, and we just grinding. We're pursuing excellence every day, and we do it in a way that impacts the world at every stage, at every level. So I'm glad that you are taking some time out your day and hanging out with your boy. Now, to the episode. We done our housekeeping. You know why you're here, and I'm so glad you stayed. Today we're talking about the Bannister effect. And the reason I think this is real important for leaders is I think as leaders, we can get infatuated with history. We can get infatuated with repeating history, with trying to reenact or trying to reimagine things that have happened in the past. It's actually one of the inspirations for the perspectives of leadership. So for hero, voice, guru, and royalty, if you're new here, go watch some old episodes. I break it down pretty well. But one of the inspirations was I felt like I saw too many leaders trying to recreate historical leadership and historical leaders and what they did, and it doesn't really work well. So, for example, Mansa Musa, I was just talking to somebody about him yesterday. Yeah, he was a really famous king a long, long time ago, went on the journey to Mecca from Africa. And as he was traveling, one of the most incredible parts of it about his journey was when he traveled with like a whole city, right? So it wasn't like Buddy hopped on his camel and just like, I'm gonna go to Mecca. No, like he took an entire city with him, and he passes through Egypt. As he's passing through Egypt, he just starts giving gold away, just giving it away, right? Because this dude is balling. A lot of scholars believe he's probably the richest man in world history. And he goes through Egypt. He goes through Mecca. Goes on about his journey. Egypt's economy, because he gave so much gold away in Egypt. Gold was useless for about 5 to 10 years in Egypt because of how much gold he gave away. So what I mean by that is so for example, if you don't know how economy works, right? If you're new to this, the reason money is valuable is because everybody doesn't have it. Right? And so money is valuable. The reason I can give you a service in exchange for money is because then I can use that money to buy something else. But if we all have 3,000 pieces of gold, you giving me gold for this doesn't do anything for me because he's not going to accept gold for his thing because it doesn't do anything for him. And so it was so much gold that he basically shut the economy down and shut down commerce for a long time. I say all that to say, we can't do that today, right? Like if you want to go on a journey to Mecca or you go on vacation or a road trip, you can't give away so much money that Moberly, Missouri economy shut down. Like that's just not the way it works anymore, okay? And so trying to recreate historical actions is not fruitful, but recreating historical perspectives has tons of credence today. So we're going to study the Bannister effect, and then I'm going to give you 3 things that we need to recreate that effect in our own lives and our own journeys. So what is the Bannister effect? What is the Bannister effect? The Bannister effect is named after a guy named Robert Bannister. And so Robert Bannister was a long distance runner in the 40s. And he was an Olympic runner. He ran the mile at the Olympics. And so before Robert Bannister, for about a decade, the mile time didn't move, right? The people couldn't really make any progress. And it was the thought at the time was it's impossible to run under a 4 minute mile. Like it just can't happen. We are humanly incapable, right, of running under a 4 minute mile. In a way, in a sense where it was like it was a glass ceiling. Like no matter how fast you got, 4 minutes was the maximum threshold for the human body. You could push yourself. If you went past four, it just was impossible, right? And so he's getting ready to run the mile race. And right before he runs it, a guy gets really close. A guy gets like 401. And everybody's like astonished. This is the world record. He runs 401. Everybody's like, bro, that's crazy how he got so close. But we know 4 minutes is the limit. And so Robert Bannister actually has a book. And so he talks about how in the race, he was trying to win, right? And he had, and it's so interesting, in his training, he had broke 4 minutes. And so he had done it when no one else was watching. But if you a runner, you know how your time on a watch is unofficial, right? We don't got lasers, and it's not the same. Like tracking yourself is much different than when you get into the 5K or you get into the marathon or half marathon, right? It's a whole different world, it's a whole different beast, right? He knew that he could do it, but he was worried because if you know anything about long distance runners, they pace, and so they allow the pack to set the pace, right? And so when the race starts, he says like he thought the guy who was setting the pace was moving too slow for him to break the 4 minute mile, right? This is 1954 Olympics. And mind you, when you're running in the Olympics, you can't have a watch or anything, so you don't know. You can see the pace, but it's hard to know the pace, right? And so he's seeing it. He's like, man, this guy's moving too slow. Comes around the second lap, he starts to gain on guys. And he's like, okay, all right, well, I got a chance. And mind you, he's trying to break the record, but he's trying to win the race. And so he's trying to balance, right? Because you don't want to gas out early trying to break the record and end up not being a gold medalist. And so he's trying to make sure he runs as fast as he can while also not gassing out too early so that he can win the gold. And so he comes around the second lap. He's starting to pick up pace, right? Come around his third lap, he's in second. And it's interesting. They talk about how he was way taller than the guy that was in first. And so he was messing with his stride. And so he was like, all right. He comes around his third lap and he kicks on him. And he starts picking up, and he hawks guy. He passes the first guy. He's in first. And he's moving. Everybody in the stadium can see the time. They see him picking up pace and they start to scream. They start to cheer. They start to encourage Robert Bannister because they see that he can do it, right? And they yell and they're yelling. He flies across the finish line and he did it. He breaks the 4 minute mile, the 4 minute threshold. He runs it in 3 minutes and 59 seconds and 4/10 of a second. So he just breaks it. The record that no one thought was possible to break, right? Everybody was like, it's humanly impossible to break the 4 minute mile. Everybody in the stadium sees him do it. The runners see him do it. And something incredible happens though, right? This was believed to be impossible before he does it. After he breaks the 4 minute mile, breaks the world record, in less than 2 weeks, someone else breaks his record. And then someone else breaks that record. And it ends up in 1954 alone, right? Mind you, the Olympics happened in the summer. So in the last half of the year, 4 people end up breaking the 4 minute mile record. They go under 4. And so what is the Bannister effect? The Bannister effect is the ideal that no one thinks it's possible until it's possible. Then everybody thinks it's possible. All right? So I'm going to say that again. No one thinks it's possible until it is possible, and then everybody thinks it's possible. And so 1954, they break the 4 minute barrier. This year, we have the Olympics in 2024. The 3 medalists, gold, silver, bronze, all ran a sub 4 mile. 345 and some tenths slower, and 346. Those are the gold, silver, bronze medalists from this year's Olympics. It's about 70-year difference. I'm great at math. The 4 minute mile was considered impossible, right? 70 years ago. Like, you can't do it. You can't break it. Now, if you run a 4-minute mile, you cannot win a medal at the Olympics. You will be in last place by a long shot if you ran the Roberts Bannister mile. And it's so interesting because I know athletic feats improve over time, right? And so we are some people are like, man, that's just how we just gotten bigger, faster, stronger. And some of that is true, right? But also some of it is like, yeah, we gotten bigger, faster, stronger, but there's still athletic feats that we haven't accomplished, right? There's still athletic feats that people haven't done. It's not just that we've gotten bigger, stronger, faster. It is also that we believe we can do it. And we believe we can do it because we've seen someone else do it, right? And so the Bannister effect is the ideal that glass ceilings are meant to be broken. And the reason that we usually don't break them is we use historical data and records to gauge what's possible instead of believing that we can do something no one else has done. And it is the belief from leaders that we can do something that nobody else has done that unlocks potential for the unimaginable or for the impossible. And so there's three concepts that we have to grasp in order to accomplish the impossible. And when I say the impossible, it might be no one in your family has ever been married for a long period of time. No one in your family has ever been able to take vacations every year. No one you know works from home. No one you know can work fully remote from anywhere in the world. You don't know anybody who owns a successful business. You don't know anybody whose kids are good in school or have played Division I athletics. You've never had an opportunity to travel to Africa. You don't know nobody who's been to Africa. That seems impossible. You don't know anybody who's done a month or 6 months in a different place. That seems impossible, right? So it's all these things. I'm not just talking about athletic feats, but like just in life in general, there are some beliefs that we have that we generate based on what we see, what environment we're in, on what's possible. But what leadership is, what excellent leaders do is they gauge what is going on. They gauge current events. They look at history. They see what's possible and they discover new ways to push that limit. They discover new ways to break those glass ceilings and do the impossible, right? And so three things that you need to do the impossible. One, you need belief. You gotta believe that you can do it, right? You have to believe that you can do it. And so with Robert Bannister, he believed that he could beat the record because he had done it in his training, right? He believed in his training that he could push himself and do it. And so when he got to the Olympics, he knew it was possible. His concern wasn't could he do it? His concern was would the other runner set the pace for him to do it, right? So he believed he could run a sub 4 mile. Right. And so we have to believe we can spend 6 months in Europe. We have to believe we can do a week in Africa. We have to believe we can work from wherever we want to in the world. We have to believe that we can build and sustain a healthy marriage. Like we have to believe that these are possible before we even attempt to do them. Right. If you ever like, I know some people who like are confidence isn't their thing. Right? Confidence isn't their thing. And so they go into different situations half believing. Like I work with a lot of students. I'm like, hey, you know you can get an A in this class if you do X, Y, and Z. They're like, man, I don't know, man. I'm gonna do my best. It's like, nah, bro, that ain't good enough. Like, that's not how this works. You have to believe you can get an A before you can do the work to get the A, right? So the first step is belief. If you don't believe it to be possible, it is not. As a man thinketh, he is, right? And so if you believe it to be possible, it becomes possible, right? Number two, process. You have to have a process to do the impossible for it to become possible. What are those steps? What is the work that is required to do something that you've never seen done, right? I want to build a healthy and sustainable marriage. I've never seen people like adults communicate very clearly. Like what I've seen in my life is people pop off at each other, right? They say stuff that's crazy to each other. They stuff and they don't talk about things. And so for me, I want to build a sustainable marriage that I've never seen. I'm going to learn how to communicate effectively and clearly that's not emotionally charged. Like I'ma learn. I've never done this in any of my relationships, right? I be acting crazy. I know I do. I'm gonna be patient. Like I'm gonna work on patience so that when I do get triggered, when I am upset, I don't say something that damages my relationship. I don't do something that damages my relationship. Like I'm a start exhibiting self-control because I want to do something impossible. I want to build a healthy, sustainable marriage. I know what cussing my man out to get me, right? Like I know what cutting Shorty off. I know what shutting down. When she get to tripping and I shut down, I know what that leads to. So I'm going to do something different because I want to achieve a result that I deem to be impossible. So I'm going to do something now in the process. I'm going to do something now in the work that leads me, right, down the path of the impossible. And that doesn't mean it's guaranteed that I'll achieve the impossible, right? But it does mean that I am making it more achievable, more attainable, because I know if I don't do those things, what the end result is, right? And so we have to think outside the box. We have to listen to other people that have done it, right? Like one of the reasons why everybody can run a 4 minute mile now is you can pull up on Gemini, Google's AI, or ChatGPT. You can ask ChatGPT, I want to train to run a 4 minute mile. What can I do? And they will give you a training program. You know why? Because people have already done it. Okay. And so you can look at the people who have done it and be like, okay, if I do this, if I run this amount of time, if I push this way, then I will be able to achieve this. Right. And so develop a process that takes in account that you want to do something no one's ever done. And so you have to start doing stuff no one's ever doing right now. Okay. And then the last thing, right? The last thing that is required to achieve the impossible is this buzzword that gets thrown around, but it's so applicable in this situation. Grit. Grit, man. You gotta have some grit. And I know if you're in education, I know if you're in corporate America, you are tired of this word, but it's so good, right? It's such a good word because what it means is it's stuff ain't easy, but you can't quit, right? And so grit is the ideal or the ability, right, to push through things when they're not perfect, when they're not easy. You keep moving, right? So if you've ever run a mile, right? I had a goal this summer, right? I got to running and I realized how out of shape I was, and I went home and cried for a little bit. And then I was like, all right, what can we do? And so my goal this summer was to run a sub 8 minute mile. Because when I started the beginning of summer, I was around like 10 minutes, which I know we're talking about a sub 4 minute mile, so it sounds crazy, but I'm not an Olympic athlete, y'all. I'm just a 30-year-old guy trying to stay in shape, okay? So I was running 10 minute miles. Like, I got to run a sub 8, right? And so my I'm sorry. So my process, I was running every day. I was tracking my time, and I was just trying to shave a little off every day, right? A second or two, 5 seconds here, 3 seconds there, and then I got to the point where I was close. So I was like eight. I was running like 8:10, right, or 8:08, or I was around that time for like a week or two, and I'm like, okay, I got to do something different. Like I gotta do something different when I'm running because I can get it. Like I'm there, right? And so I go to the track, and usually I try to get to like a steady pace. So I got my Apple Watch, and I love it because it tells you your pace for your mile, right? It tells you what pace you're on. And so usually I just try to get to the like 758, 755 pace and try to stick to it, right? So I'm like, so that's what I had been doing. I'm like, no, but this time I am going to run. I'm going to almost sprint the first lap, right? And so I take off and I'm running like my first lap was like a 6 minute 30 pace, right? Now I know that's not sustainable. I know I just ran an 8:08 the day before. Like I know I'm not running 6:30 today. Like I understand that. But I'll get off to this lead. And what I've done is I built some grace into my mile. And so second lap, of course, I start slowing down. Third lap, I'm slowing down. I look at for the fourth lap, I'm on like a 7:58 pace or something like that. Like it's close, right? So I had to dig. And I'm like, I'm not lose. Like I got up to too good of a start for this not to be the day where I break this 8 minute mile, right? And so I push myself. I push. And mind you, my legs is burning. My lungs is screaming for help. I'm like, bro, this is crazy. Like, this is like, I'm not gonna make it. I push. I end up running like a 750, right? So I end up actually running better on my fourth lap than I did on my third lap because I had to reach down inside of me and be like, nope, I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting. Like, this is hard. It looks like I'm not gonna make it, but I know that I can. And I know that if I push myself, I can actually do what I'm setting out to do. And so that is applicable to our life. Like that's just not running, that's just not sport. Like the ideal that you can make a certain amount of money requires a certain level of grit. You have to get up a little earlier, work a little later, save a little more, invest a little better, right? And you have to do it when it's uncomfortable. You have to do it when you don't feel like it. You have to do it when your life says you should take a break or you've earned time to like you tried. Life will do that a lot. Life will try to get you to say, well, at least I tried. Like life will get you in this space where you can say, and you're like, nobody will knock me. Like I tried, bro. Like I gave it my best shot. Grit says that's not good enough. Like grit tells you that's not good enough. And I love that because it has to be internal. It has to happen inside of you. No one can be gritty for you. No one can make you exhibit grit, or no one can make you push through. Like it has to come from inside you, right? To desire to do more than what you think is possible, more than what you think is okay, right? To push towards greatness or towards excellence. I'm coach. I coach basketball, and I say this all the time. Hey, y'all, I can't coach effort. Can't do it. You gotta want it. No matter how much I make y'all run, no matter how much I make y'all do push-ups, no matter how much I yell, like I can't coach effort, right? Like you gotta desire, you have to want to give effort. And I actually got a chance to go see Golden State play, and this will be my last thing, and then we'll hop out of here. All right. I got a chance to go see Golden State play. I was watching Draymond, and one of the reasons, if you've never been to an NBA game and you doubt how good NBA basketball is, you one of those people like, man, NBA basketball ain't good. They don't X, Y, and Z. Go see a game in person, right? Like if you go see it live, I'm telling you, it'll change your opinion. Okay. I've seen NBA games before, so it didn't change my opinion. I know these dudes is the best in the world. I went to see Golden State play, and I got, because what happens is you get to see what's going on with outside the ball, and so you get to see like how much they're actually playing. I got to watch Draymond Green play, and it's my first time seeing the Warriors. It's my favorite team. I'm a Steph Curry guy, but when I tell you, I was most impressed with Draymond Green. When I tell you he was making second, third, fourth efforts every possession. Every single possession. He was in help, back to his guy. Help, back to his guy. Help, back to his guy. Trap, rebound, kick. He's running. Next possession, offense, he don't shoot, don't even look at the rim. Come back next possession, he's guarding the pick and roll. He takes the ball handler, they pass, he bumps Steph back to the big, plays post defense, gets him the kick, helps again, goes back and box out, get the rebound, pass, go set 6 more screens. Like, it was incredible. Like, I'm in the stands like, yeah, Dre, come on, Dre. Like, it was incredible just watching his activity and watching how committed he was to doing the thing that wasn't easy. Because that's the thing. Great defenders in the NBA, one is athletic ability, right? Like Draymond Green being 6'7", but having a 7'2" wingspan helps a lot, right? But it's also making the next effort. A lot of NBA guys don't always make the next effort. They'll guard the first ball guy, they'll make the first help, but then they like, all right, let's get back on offense. Like I did enough, right? Like coach can't say I didn't give effort this possession. I did enough. Draymond like, nope, until the possession over, you getting everything I got. And that's how we gotta attack the impossible. Until we achieve it, you got everything I got. You're getting everything I got because I have it. I know I have it. I believe I have it. I created a process that shows I have it. And even when I don't feel like I have it, I'm gritty and I'm going to show you I got it. Okay. And so that's where we have to be as leaders because the impossible is possible, right? Everybody said you can't do it until they see you do it. You feel me? Hey, that's just how it goes. And that's what we do in Crew Excellence. If you like, man, what have I gotten myself into? You've joined a group that does the impossible. And I'm glad you're here. And I can't wait to see what barriers you break and how you show people that they can do it as well. All right? So until next time, man, hey, I love y'all, man. Drop a comment. Tell me what you chasing. Tell me what glass ceiling you gonna break, what you deem now to be possible that everybody has said is impossible. Drop it in the comments. We're going to see what happens in 6 months to a year. All right? I love y'all. It's been an honor and privilege to hang out with y'all. I'm your host of the Ladder Podcast. And until next time, man, peace.